Today, I want to take a look at a chart that nobody else is talking about. I'm seeing different things. I'm seeing all the angles. We're going to be looking at all the angles today. We're talking about a commodity that everyone uses every single day of their lives, no matter what. Even if you believe that in green energy, even if you believe in driving around in your solar-powered cars, it doesn't matter. At the end of the day, this is something that affects everybody, and there can be some major consequences to the price of this commodity getting to an all-time low. Let's take a look at what's going on with this chart, and let's talk about why nobody else is really talking about this and why it's not a big deal that this commodity is crashing back down to the hole that it came from. Let's talk about it right here on the #1 day trading channel. Let's go. What's going on, guys? Patrick here, the $1 Million Man with the $1 Million Plan. Now, let's talk about why nobody is really even focused at all on this chart, other than maybe some people out there who are like trading the 3 times ETFs and stuff like that, and they're just complete idiots. But in general, let's talk about what's really going on here. What is going on? All right, so if we look back, this is a yearly chart. Let's just go back here, back to the beginning. Back there in October of 2018, the high was $76. If you haven't already figured it out, we're looking at crude oil futures. We're looking at crude oil futures, WTI, whatever you want to call them. This is the light crude oil, sweet crude. I don't know if it's sweet or unsweet. How do you figure that out? But in general, let's take a look here. Let's take a look at what's really going on. You can see how we've had some bounces, some rallies, and all that. But recently, it's just been getting murdered. Just legitimately murdered. Look at this thing. Going from $29 down there to $19, from 20 up to 29, crashing. We just switched over to a new contract, I guess pretty much today. The new contract, or last night, whatever, the new contract started trading. So we got this gap up on the June contracts, which is really interesting. Not really sure how that works, but whatever. In general, still, the overall pattern is still intact here, The market there, the 29th, this was last Friday. Last Friday, some stuff came out about a deal getting done, about them controlling the output and all of that. But let's be honest here. All right, we already know that the price of oil is highly manipulated. One country says they're going to pump more, another country says they're not going to pump more. It's just a battle of who can withstand the other one longer, and you go back and forth. Let's talk about why this is such a big deal for the U.S. economy. The U.S. has started to export more oil than ever before. Fracking, and you got offshore drilling. You've got the drilling in protected places that recently have started, and you've got natural gas. You got all these different types of fuels, whatever you want to call it. We're just looking at the overall play here for the U.S. One thing that a lot of people aren't talking about is that there's lots of banks, there's lots of investment firms, there's private equity, there's a lot of money tied up, let's just say betting on the idea of oil going higher in the future. But what happens if oil continues this pattern and continues to head lower? We've recently seen that $19 area. What's to say that oil can't be $10 or below $10 by the end of this year, as the demand obviously is just gone? People aren't driving, people aren't going, airplanes aren't flying. There's a massive demand drop. The entire world, it's basically affected the entire world, especially in the U.S. But what happens when these banks come to collect? What happens when these oil companies, these oil services, you're talking about drilling, you're talking about overall just manpower, you're talking about refineries, you're talking about an entire industry that is already over leveraged. Everybody leveraged themselves up, and they were like, hey, 2019 was nothing but a bull market. The market's going to rally back. We're going to get to a point, right? People believed that we were going to get to a point. But you can see, in 2020, it was looking good, right? The idea of oil going from $50 up there to $65, slowly climbing back out of the hole that it came from, climbing back there. But ever since this whole thing has happened, really since January 3rd, what was it? That was the high there. That was on January 10th. And look at this thing. It's just been going down, and it's been getting crushed. So you've got to really ask yourself, what is the exposure for the U.S. economy when it comes down to oil? You got to remember, there are so many products that are made with oil. So gas will obviously be cheaper. Rubber products will become cheaper in theory. Not that most manufacturers would lower the price of their goods because they're getting, they're getting oil for cheaper. I don't see that happening. But in general, what happens to all of the private equity, all the banks that have leveraged themselves to a point where they thought that back in 2019, this was the bottom, like, oh, cool. We're at a point now where we think the market's going to go back. We're going to rally back from here. 2019, we're going to get, 2019, 2018, it's like, oh, cool. The $50 area is the bottom. That's our support. I can invest in oil companies. I can invest in oil exploration. I can invest in refineries, all this stuff. I can invest here. And, we can make a little profit. We can make a little profit. But now, at this point, those companies are no longer making any profit. There's no company in the U.S. that is dealing with oil that can make a profit when the barrel of oil is $20 or $19 or anything below there. I think it's even below like $40. It's just game over. The play for me here is I'm looking for companies that have massive exposure. I'm looking for banks that have a big portfolio of investments in oil. I'm looking for oil companies alone, exploration companies, refinery companies. I'm looking for oil companies in general for a dismal outcome from here. Is there a chance we rally back some? Maybe. Maybe we rally back a little bit. But in general, we got to be honest here. This chart does not look good. Everyone's focused on the SPY. Everyone's focused on the Dow. But let's be honest here, people. This is not good. This is not good. Not good at all. Even the news of cutting production, even the news with Trump, everybody talking about oil, with the companies talking about oil, with the OPEC, all this stuff going on, they still can't prop the price of oil up. And this is the most manipulated commodity in the world. It's one of those things where the price of oil basically depends on how much they pump out of the ground, and they control that. Russia, OPEC, the U.S., all these companies, all these big major corporations work together to try to control the price of oil, to get the price of oil to a point where they break even at least. Minimum, let's break even here. But what happens when this thing keeps going lower? If we can't find a bottom here soon, I'm seeing a lot of bankruptcy. I'm seeing a lot of defaulted loans. I'm seeing a lot of people who are involved in the oil industry losing their jobs. This could be the next match that starts the fire. The coronavirus was cool, right? We got the coronavirus, but there's going to be a lot of matches getting lit because of that. So we got to see all the angles, and this is an angle that I'm seeing right now. I'm looking for opportunity. Somebody might say it's time to buy the bottom, but I believe that we're going to go lower from here. Is that to say that I'm going to be wrong? And this is going to go to like 100 now. It's going to just rally as soon as I put this video out there. But deep down inside of me, I got to ask a question. Who's really going to be affected most from the crash of the oil market and the oil industry? What's going on? Let's see where the big play is here, and let's look for opportunities. If you guys haven't already, do me one big favor. Hit that like button, the subscribe button, all the buttons down below. Leave a comment. What do you guys think about oil? Where are we going to be in 6 months from now? Is oil going to be back at all-time highs, or is oil going to be below $20? Talk to you guys later on.